Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Ink the Reader. Today I am filming my November TBR. We are here 2 months from the end of a year and I have almost made my rounds around all my bookshelves, at least the ones upstairs. We still have 2 shelves to go. Now, because we got only 2 shelves, and I believe one is the blue shelf and one is the pink one underneath. I'm gonna double check, but if that's the case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just insert number 1 and 2 in a random number generator, and the shelf that comes up, I'm gonna attempt to read as many books from it as possible. I'm still planning to make a video of how things will change in January and what's been going on, because this year, particularly this year, I struggled to keep up with my TBR. It's been quite hectic. Said that, let's generate a number. Let's go through the shelf. Sorry, you might see me touching my hair a lot because they're still wet and damp and it's a horrible weather, so the light is what it is. But without further ado, let's do the books first, and then what's gonna happen in terms of my comics TBR is I've got this idea that I will probably order a few volumes. I'm not gonna go crazy. Again, I'm still very much in a book buying ban somehow, so I'm gonna probably buy a few volumes though, and I'm gonna do an unboxing. Okay, yes, so I double checked and I was correct. So the only 2 shelves left are this one and this one underneath, so the pink one. And so I'm gonna call this one the blue one. Well, actually you can't see it, but it's just next here. So I'm gonna call 1 and 2 and let's generate a number. So I'm gonna insert 1 and 2. Okay, next 2. Okay, so I've done it. And then I'm gonna click on generate. That number is 2. Yes, it's 2. So we're gonna do the pink books. So I'm gonna show you the shelf first of all, and then I'm gonna go through the synopsis. Okay, so here's the shelf. The majority of things here I have read, which is, to be fair, positive, because I kind of really want to read my fairy loot. I've been quite horrible with them, so if I don't have too many books on this shelf, I might at least attempt 1 fairy loot. But anyway, let's go through the books. And first of all, I'm going to remove Gandalf, which is so small but actually so heavy, and other stuff around. So first of all, here we have Dark Dawn. I have read, so I don't need to read. But I've not read this fairy loot, which is the Ones We Burn. So yeah, this goes on my TBR, we will see. And I like the pages. Now, Nevernight I have read. Kings of the Wild I have read. John dies at the end. This one is actually, I might have not read this one. I might have read another one in the series, but I'm gonna find out. Okay, one I'm excited. The Cabin at the End of the World I have not read, and I know there is a movie out, isn't it, or a TV show, so I wanna actually read this. I've read another by him. This is another one that I would really love to reread. I won't, just because I got other stuff on my TBR, but eventually I will start rereading stuff. And this is The Invisible Life by De La Rue. I love this book. My favorite Schwab thus far. So yeah, I love the edition as well. The Hood King I have not read, and if it's book number 3, which I believe it is, I need to read it. And I used to enjoy this series a lot. I've not read a book in a few years now, but yeah, this one, The Hood King, not Hood. Arm of the Sphinx, clearly I have read because I've put tabs on it. Sabriel I also have not read. And this is a very popular series, fantasy, I believe it's YA, by Garth Nix. Another one I've not read is 6 Crimson Cranes. Again, I love this hardcover as well, but lovely cover. Oh, famous one I've not read is The Handmaid's Tale. Not read this one, by Margaret Atwood. Now, of course, I've read The Shadow of the Wind, as you can see. This book is featured in a lot of my videos from my channel. Captive Prince. I believe it's book number 1 in a series, and so yeah, book 1 I have read this one. And the last one I've not read, which is Where the Crawdads Sing, and again there's a movie about these, or based on these, and I've not read this one. Okay, so let's go through the actual synopses. There were more unread books than I actually initially thought. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8 books, which is a full TBR plus the 2 fairy lists. So again, I will probably get around to all of them. But anyway, Where the Crawdads Sing. This, I believe, is a literature fiction with an element of thriller, because it's about this girl that it's brought up in the marshes, kind of isolated, don't know why, and she's kind of a recluse, not really integrated in, you know, the society of a small town that these marshes are surrounding. But one day there is a man that is found dead, and people think that she might have something to do with his passing away or his murder. Not sure if he's been murdered or not. And so people are starting to look at her as a possible culprit, and I guess she will have to defend herself, get in more contact with the town, and I believe there is potentially a love triangle, or like some young men that become obsessed with her or interested in her while she's trying to defend herself and her name. We will see. The synopsis is a bit vague in the sense I don't know if it's more literature or fiction about this girl finding her place in society after being isolated for so long, or it's a love story, it's more a thriller, no idea. I'll find out, maybe. Okay, then I've got The Handmaid's Tale, which is a classic, and no, I've not read these, and I was kind of curious to try the TV show just because there is Alexis Bledel, I don't know how you pronounce the surname, but she plays Rory in Gilmore Girls, and I was obsessed with Gilmore Girls growing up. When I saw her, she was starring as, I believe, a protagonist in the TV show. Plus the fact that it's a very famous classic, I was very intrigued, but I wanted to read the book first. So I found this in a charity shop, and now here we are, years later, and this is a very popular dystopian where I believe it's kind of a witty, satirical take on modern society and the patriarchism in the society. So it's, you know, this kind of world where women are just there to breed, and if you don't do your duty, you are just left, or you're just basically killed. And I don't know, I guess women will rebel. I have no idea. I'm not the biggest fan of dystopians, but I think that this packs a punch, and I am so curious actually to see if I get, I don't know, when I read books like this where I know that there is a deep message underneath, I always go in trying to judge how well that message is received by me. So I'm curious. Let's see. Okay, then I've got 6 Crimson Cranes, which is a YA fantasy, and I believe it's a retelling of a folk tale or like a legend involving cranes, but don't quote me on this, it's been a very long day. I did purchase this just because I heard amazing things, but also I just found these and I just loved how, you know, these pastel colors, every time I just stare at this cover, it just gives me a sense of peace. All I know about this book is about our main protagonist. She's due to marry, she's betrothed to this guy that she doesn't really want to marry, and she has magic in her veins, and she has kind of tried to repress this magic because people are not allowed to express this magic. And one day, the night before she's supposed to marry this guy, the magic just comes out, and her stepmother finds out about the magic. So the stepmother, who herself has magic, banishes the girl and just say, you can't speak about anybody about the magic, you can't marry the prince. She just kicks her out basically, and transform all her brothers into cranes, and she says, if you ever speak with someone, one of your brothers will die. And so this girl, she's left with nothing, and she also has the kind of burden of her brothers' lives on her shoulders, and on top of everything, she knows her stepmother wants to overthrow the king and kind of take powers for herself. So she will have to team up with a guy who she didn't want to marry to begin with and try and save her brothers and the kingdom. And I don't know anything else about this. I do believe it's a duology, but let me know. It is blurred by Stephanie Garber, who is one of the very few YA author that I am currently obsessed with. So if she blurred these, I have high hopes. Okay, the next one I know very little about. I know that this is kind of probably a classical fantasy when you got your main protagonist fighting a big evil, and she, I believe, has magic and has to travel to save someone that's dear to her, and by you know, doing this traveling, she will have to try and save the kingdom from this evil magic. I don't know anything else about these, and I kind of, because it's such a popular series and the synopsis is quite vague from the back, I prefer to just read it and then give you a proper synopsis once I know what should be given away and what not. But again, it's a very famous one. Sometimes I struggle with YA, fantasy or not, so we will see. But again, it's been on my shelves for ages and it's time for me to get my together and read this. Another one that I have not read in ages, it's this is The Hot King, but the first one, it's called the Tower of Babel. I believe the books, yeah, the first one is Senlin Ascends. So I am just going with what I remember from the first book, which is about Senlin and his wife are traveling to this city on which in the middle there is this Tower of Babel, and the tower works at each layer, so each floor of this tower has its own world. It's like an ecosystem in itself, and it's just a tourist attraction basically. So they go there on their honeymoon and his wife disappears, so he needs to go into the tower, climb the tower in order to find his wife, and things go mental from there. I absolutely adored book number 1. Book number 2 I struggled with a tiny bit more. However, there are very clear scenes, very impactful scenes from the series that I still retain after probably 3 years since I picked up the last book, if not more actually. I can actually tell you, the last book, The Arm of the Sphinx, I have read in 2019. So yeah, it's been a while. I have heard that the series unfortunately does go downhill. However, I'm not gonna give a final judgment until I've read the 3rd and 4th. I think it's a quartet book series. So yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to continue on. I think it's time to try and get this series done. And despite everything, you might not enjoy the execution or his writing, whether it's the case, but I do believe honestly that he had a genius idea, like this idea of this tower and this kind of, you know, every floor being a world in itself was such a unique idea that the promises made me like this book to begin with. So yeah, I'm gonna continue on. Okay, the next one I'm actually very curious to read. I've read another one by him, and I felt mixed feelings about it. I didn't love it, but I also liked some scenes and his writing was okay, so I decided to continue on with the next one. This is probably the most famous by him that I heard of, and this is about this family that decides to spend some time in a cabin in the middle of the woods with neighbors not closer than 2 miles, and one day a stranger approaches the 8 years old, the kid in the family, and he tells the kid, nothing of what's gonna happen next is your fault. And then 3 strangers approach the cabin and they basically say, either you make a very difficult choice, but if you don't do this choice, the world is gonna end. And I don't know anything else about this, but imagine being in a cabin in the middle of the woods and you got this home invasion situation where these 3 strangers come in and ask you a very difficult question, an impossible question. I don't know exactly what it is. I've heard things, but I don't want to be wrong, so I'm not going to repeat it. Anyway, a very harsh demand is made by these 3 men to a family, and if I don't do it, the world is going to end. I just don't know, if to me is like a mind-blowing idea. I want to know how this is executed. Yes, there are good chances that I might hate these, but there are also chances that I find myself pleasantly surprised. We will see, we will see. I'm excited to find out, actually. Okay, the next one I'm pretty sure I've not read. I mean, I've read the 3rd book in the series. So this is John Dies at the End. I love the title of this book. I think it's just genius. And I know that this is kind of a horror humoristic book, and the back is absolutely confusing, so I'm not gonna even try and attempt a synopsis, but I'm gonna read to you the important thing list, which is here on the back with the chopped arm. The drug is called soy sauce, and it gives users a window into another dimension. So I guess we're talking about horror, alien, different dimensions, possibly. John and I never had the chance to say no. You still do. And of course I'm not gonna do it. Like, there's a chopped arm on the back. I mean, I don't know what to expect, but I feel like I'm very much into horror mood, even now if October has gone by. So that one and The Cabin at the End of the World are very intriguing. Okay, so the next one is a fairy loot that I never got around to read, and I did change the cover, so the actual original cover it's the one on the back, but because it's a fairy loot, they do magic things with their books, so I did swap the cover. I'm gonna try and find the unboxing, I don't promise though, but yeah, it's a stunning fairy loot edition as always. The synopsis is very long from the back, but what I gather is that you follow this girl. She is a blood witch, and she's raised with the task to basically go pretend to marry the prince of his kingdom and actually kill him. But when she goes there, the prince is so gentle and kind, and she doesn't really want to kill him. Plus, she kind of fancy his sister, who is the real threat. She's the very smart and courageous, but also stubborn sister that it's the real threat to the blood witches. I don't know why. But then there's another threat thrown in the mix, so they all have to team up to save the kingdom again. And I guess our main protagonist has to choose between her enemies, which should be this prince and his sibling, and actually her tribe and what she was supposed to do. Don't know anything else about these. I've not heard anybody speaking about these. Again, this is one that if you have read, I'm curious to know what you thought about it. Realistically speaking, knowing myself, because there are a few horrors in there and very famous titles, this might be put in the back unless you guys tell me, oh, I love that book so much. So do let me know, because otherwise this is likely to be the last one I pick up. I'm just honest. Then the fairy loot are gonna be in my unboxing for the month. So the fairy loot for October I'm gonna be added in my TBR. For November, as always, and probably as always I'm gonna fail, but I try, okay? I tried.